Hey guys, J77 here, doing a comic book topic as always. And from now until pretty much the end of summer, all comic book talks pretty much will be focusing on Superman, the Man of Steel, both in a comic book graphic novel review as well as some editorials that have surfaced in the past few years. Editorial pieces that have won good debate about about the character, what he stands for, as well as how people view him in terms of his morals. Needless to say, there was a lot of good pieces that the news covered. Even the comic book community has talked about. And I'm sure I share with everybody here to get their views and feedback as to what they think Superman should represent, as well as what they expect from the Man of Steel as a hero in DC Comics. So, without further ado, I'm going to start off with one of the first graphic novels I'm going to be reviewing of the summer, and that is Superman Earth 1, which is written by Michael Sinitsky and Sean Davis. It is one of the books that had reached the media a little bit. It made a few pages of the Daily News. Even the Post have covered it. And even the news, other news as the CNN and ABC have talked about it. And it was pretty much Superman getting a retool, a shape up. And they were so big that they actually put the picture of him, this picture to be exact, on the on their fifth page of the article, talking about the new upgrade Superman was happening. This is not surprising me because, like I said, how many times the Superman has been rebooted, depending on the era that he's in. They're constantly telling of Superman. But this one was a little different. It wasn't really as much as they were starting from scratch, just continuing on with probably the number, I believe, 800. They were just doing it in a graphic novel setting and basically telling the story just from that perspective. In fact, if I last checked, Volume 2 is just came out a few weeks ago, and I will be looking at that going down the line. The story also, Earth 1, serves as a blueprint for the Man of Steel. And the reason why I say it is that those who have actually read this book can actually see bits and pieces of the book being planted into the movie, especially some of the machines that you saw, the gravity compressor, whatever the hell that was. Can never get what the hell they were trying to say. That basically was turning gravity like Krypton. That's pretty much in this book. Only it does a different thing in this book. The aliens coming down, pretty much giving Superman his first adventure, his first big test. That's been pretty much taken from the book. His journey into becoming Superman, not sure what he wants to do. That's also in this book. The only thing that hasn't been pretty much ingraded is the full scope of Krypton. This book has been told through flashbacks, but very few things have been mentioned about Krypton except for how it was destroyed and what's the purpose of these aliens being here. That's pretty much it. And the reason why I so want to say that this has been pretty much the blueprint also is because David S. Goyle have read it and actually gave it high praise. In fact, he was one of two veterans of the Superman world that actually liked this book. Richard Donner being the other one, and we already know Richard Donner's responsibility for the first Superman movie. this is this book to me when I first read it, I wasn't really thrilled about it. I wasn't jumping up and down. I love the artwork. I'm just gonna say it right now. I think the artwork was fantastic. Fantastic. I love looking at the pictures of the artwork. They did a fantastic job, but the story never really hold up to me, which is kind of funny because it's pretty much almost a footnote of what the Man of Steel is. But yet, I did not like this story too much as I did with how they did the Man of Steel. Go figure. And I guess the difference between that is because I didn't like the villain in this one. I didn't like how they written this villain, which went by the name of Tyrell, and he was searching for Clark, A.A. Kal-El, because he wanted to finish his genocide by destroying Clark at the same time destroying planet Earth, because planet Earth was harboring him, even though planet Earth had no clue who he was, where he came from, and how they managed to slip by him without even noticing, even though technically that wasn't really the case. But in any case, his motivation as to why he was there, I did not really buy into. I actually bought General Zod's motivation more because there was something at stake here. He had a reason to desperately find um, Jor-El's son, and that was because Kal-El has something that he wanted that can actually bring back Krypton. Now, granted, Kal-El didn't know what it was. He didn't know why this was important, but John knew why it was important. He wanted the Kodaks, and he was willing to do anything in his power, not only to get the Kodaks, but pretty much bring his people back, even if it means wiping out a whole entire planet to do it. But despite that, I actually thought that theme, the motivation of the bad guy, made more sense than the motivation of the bad guy in this book. Because the more I read about this, the more I read that part of the comic, the less and less I actually was convinced that this was a good, this was done with care. I didn't like the way they've written it in this book. Also, as for the flashbacks, and there's a lot of them in here, the flashbacks are not bad. The flashbacks are pretty okay. It pretty much shows the basics of how he became Earthbound. It explains how Martha and Jonathan Kent found him, which, by the way, not in the traditional way. He was actually found when they went hiking and the ship crash landed, and Martha rescued him after hearing his cries. Also took a piece of the ship, a piece of fragment from the ship, which became a very important part of the book. And it pretty much explains this, and they explained it to him pretty young. Normally, Clark is like in his 12 or 13 or in his teens when he realized that he was different. But they explained it to him pretty much like 5 or 6 years old. That was kind of odd and weird. They also showed his trials and tribulations. In the beginning of the book, he's already in Metropolis pretty much. He went by train. Of course, he couldn't fly, but he said he just wanted to really get the feel of the Metropolis area. No sooner he's got to Metropolis, he have to pretty much fight off a robber. That ended kind of swiftly after he burned his hand using his infrared, his heat ray. He later on then tried out for football, which pretty much made him look smaller than what he actually is. To the point where they actually drew a bigger guy, a guy who was huge, and of course, Superman, Clark Kent, basically just decimated not only him but pretty much the whole team, to the point where they actually wanted to sign him. They wasn't even going to give him a figure. They just want to sign him up and let him do the numbers. The same was to be said when he went to a corporation that deal with chemicals. That wasn't too sure if they want him. He gave him some physics, and it turns out to be more than what they was hoping for, and they wanted to sign him up to get him working for their team. In many ways, I liked it the way they was doing it because it showed that he was feeling out his way. He was scoping out the opportunities he could have, and they made it very clear in the book that he could have picked any one of them and live great. Have a lot of money, never have to worry about food on his table. But at the same time, you can tell that this is not really for him. Even when he finally interviewed for the Daily Planet, and where Perry White was telling him that, hey, look, the papers, it's not what it used to be. It's not the same anymore. We may not be around for a year. And I like that part of the interaction with Clark because it really spoke real life of what's going on with the media now and how people are not getting a source through the usual pick up a paper for $1 or 39 cents and read. There are a lot of other ways out there. The internet has changed that. And for the papers, they are just struggling to survive. The Daily Planet is pretty much echoing what's actually really going on, and I actually like that. And Perry White was just being real with him, and he still gave him the application saying that, basically gave him feedback saying you got what it takes, but you got to do more. You got to step up your game. But he also recognized that there are people coming and going, and there's always going to be open. So he gave him the application, and Clark threw it away. He just threw it away. There was no real explanation, but he threw it away. Now you all know he's going to come back eventually in the end of the comic, but it really was very interesting how they mapped that out because again, this is Clark testing the waters, what he can and cannot do, and although out of all the candidates that said they want him, this is the one time where Perry said he was very hesitant of hiring him. In fact, he basically discouraged him from going there, and I actually didn't think Perry was wrong, but he was just laying the dirt on it. Um, so I actually liked it the way they portrayed what he was doing and how he was doing it. Uh, so what's the problem with this scene? I guess it's because I guess it has to do with the fact, and it was in this book, and this is what really did bother me a little bit, is how they break between one scene of the panels to the other. It really, I didn't think they do a very good job. Here's the perfect example. After Clark, and this is one of the pages that I'm showing you here. After Clark did all that, dominated the football team, basically running circles on them, basically carrying the big man on his shoulders. The coaches, and I've seen this, and this is pretty much the panels I'm going to go through, and I want to hear my voice from each panel I'm going through, and tell me what's wrong with this picture. Do you see it? I saw. Yeah, but did you? I saw. Call the front office, get a contract down here in a half an hour. But there is still another day of 29 minutes. What will I tell them tell them to use for numbers? Tell him to leave it blank. We'll put it in whatever he wants. Right. 28 minutes. Right. Kent, Clark, you and I need to talk. I appreciate you coming to see us, Mr. Kent. I did not skip the page. That's all on one page. And that last bubble that I read knocked me out. It threw me for a loop because I didn't know who he was talking to. I didn't know who he was talking to until I actually went to the next page. And there's no warning that that's going to happen. It doesn't say the next day, didn't explain what he told the coach. It just basically broke right on there. And the same thing happens even in this situation where he was going to offer him a job after he gave him a formula that basically made his cells better, and it breaks to him right down here saying, so how was the job going? Just immediately breaks, and the next thing you know, he's talking to his mother on the phone. And that really drew me off because I'm like, wait, what just happened? Did he say yes or no? How come they didn't put that sentence in the next page? Because if they had put that next page, I would know, okay, this is a day or two later, now he's talking to somebody else. But they didn't do that, and that kind of knocked me for a loop a little bit, especially since I'm not used to that kind of break happening so out of nowhere. So that was the one thing that did bother me about how they did it. It's not too often, but they did it in that spot that really I have to double take and reread what I just read. And I'm kind of wishing that it's kind of a little bit nitpicking, but I kind of wish they at least put that one bubble the next page or find it to the next page so that way I wouldn't have to be asking myself, did I miss something and go back? But that's a nitpick for me. Another scene I like in this book, again, is that after all is said and done, he went back to his father's tombstone. He's pretty much like in a lotus position, talking to his father's grave. It was a very, very sentimental moment. I like the way they have done those panels, and I like the way they've done the story because this is the one time where we see Clark pretty much hell-bent on his happiness. He wants to be happy, he wants to do good, but there's a promise that was made, and this promise was made when his father was dying in his arms. And this was very, very big because he basically told his father, who is now gone in this book, that he has to break a promise. He has to basically, go back on his word. He knew he promised him that he would do this, but he wants to be happy. He don't want to be alone anymore. And that's been pretty much the main theme of Superman growing up. He's alone. He can't express himself in terms, or it's going to be fear that he can expose himself, and that can make matters even worse for him. So a lot of that stuff seemed to always play to his childhood. They always want to make it clear that he didn't have it good growing up. He was always in conflict growing up, which is very unique because a person that's in conflict that much wouldn't have probably grown up to be the Superman that we all care and love. So the fact that he's able to overcome that, accept who he is, embrace who he is, really says a lot about the character. And I think that that's the one thing I got in mind, because despite all the stuff he went for as a kid, he still managed to rise up, learn from it, and still become better in terms of becoming a real superhero. And this book is no different. They show that in a lot about in this book, especially in flashbacks. Didn't like the fact they keep playing the bully card. I don't understand why they have to have the bully in there, but that's just the way it is. I do believe they went a little bit over preachy sometimes, showing us a lot too much that's really not necessary. The one thing I did like though, that was in the flashback, it pretty much in this book at least explained why Superman cannot wear a mask. And it was actually a good quote that his mother said, that by you wearing a mask, you got a lot of power. By you wearing a mask, they will be afraid of you because they don't know who they're dealing with. By seeing your face, they can see the gentle, kind man that you are, what they know, and they know that there's nothing to be afraid of. He's here to help. And that's a very strong, powerful thing I never thought about. I know that in some versions, he needs to be simple. He needs to be the voice of justice, and to do that, he has to not cover his face. But in this one, it really brings it down. They're saying that his face, his energy, resonates good, and the people need to see the goodness that resonates out of him, and that's something that I actually respect more than a lot of other origin stories that have done about him. So that's been played into it. We see how he's getting information about his homeworld for the first time, him witnessing pain for the first time because a fragment of the ship burned down his house. When he grabbed hold of it and went out of the house, he tried to examine it, hurt his hand, examined it again, and realized something was communicating out there. And what happened was the spaceship that he crash landed on and supposedly was destroyed was recovered by the military. In fact, Martha and Jonathan was considering flagging them down, but decided not to because it didn't represent good vibes. And because of that, they was able to salvage the ship, and it took years for them to put it back together. Well, because of some chain of events, he was able to access some information about his family, and we saw it through flashbacks. While at the same time, the ship started to pretty much activate themselves and put themselves back together. This after the whole invasion happened, where you had a whole troop of aliens and this dude that looks like came out of a Kiss rock band, coming down to Earth looking for Kal-El, looking for Superman, and he basically said he would destroy the planet, which he was trying to do anyway, if he didn't get what he wants, even though nobody knows who the hell he was. Superman didn't reveal himself just yet. He went to the rooftop thinking about it, and then he went to do his thing, started beating up some robots, saved Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane from this threat, because Jimmy Olsen didn't know when to run and duck. He's still taking pictures. He's still doing all this ridiculous stuff. And that's pretty much brought their attention. And that's when he actually wore the suit for the first time, because after that, which by the way, in this version, his family made the suit. And I'm not going to tell you how he got the name Superman, but needless to say, it's kind of cheesy in many ways. If you read the book, those who read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I thought it was kind of cheesy in that part. But anyway, he wore the suit. Superman was born, and he went out doing what he does best. They did some throwbacks to the old comic, which I actually thought was kind of good and respectful. Right here is in the page. If you know what they're trying to take from, it's not that hard. If you know what Action Comic is, you know exactly what this picture is referencing. You see it right there. You know exactly what that picture is referencing. So it's not that hard to realize what they're doing there. But I didn't find it insulting. I kind of find, I say, okay, I know what it is. It's a nice tribute to the old. They did it very well. It didn't offend anyone, so I actually liked it. Um, Surprisingly enough, I didn't care too much about the fight battle. It really was not much of a battle. Superman got hurt from this enemy that wants him dead. That's because he actually did something even Superman did not realize. He actually had the ability to take Superman's powers using red elements from the sun. In fact, it almost killed him in his book, and it wasn't for Jimmy Olsen and Lois Lane's quick thinking, it probably would. While all that's going on, his enemy also explains to him that that there are going to be probes digging in and pretty much doing the same thing which they did to Krypton. Might as well say this: in this book, Krypton was destroyed through genocides. They explain how this race and Kryptonian was at clash. Both planets was in alignment, and next thing you know, wars break. And it explains how one planet has something that the other planet don't. It's pretty much resource. They fighting over resource. They tricked some of the higher ups of Krypton to for a peace and negotiate a truce, but in reality, that was all front to do their master plan, and that it was to destroy Krypton from within. And they did this by, entering the atmosphere, planting probes inside, digging through the center of the Earth, and pretty much suppressing gas from coming out. Some scientists, Jor-El, pretty much knew about it, but it was always too late to stop it. And so, as a last-ditch effort, they shot their only son into space. At the time, the Earth core imploded and destroyed Krypton, but because there was one last survivor, this alien decided to make its whole business to bring a whole army worth of alien crafts, go to Earth, just so you not only kill Kal-El, but also the planet Earth for hiding him. And his justification is he wants to ensure that the last Krypton is no more. As no one in Krypton is left. And I'm like, he would have never even known Krypton exists if it wasn't for you. You made Superman. You pretty much didn't have to even come here. You won the war. So your motivation just don't make sense. And that always bothered me about the book. It was bad motivation. I never bought what this villain was going for. I don't think a lot of people did, because I know a lot of people had a problem with that villain and how they portrayed him and how they portrayed Superman. But I'll get that in a minute. But basically, in the end, after Superman had to deal with some trial tribulations, Superman beats him. He ended up getting blown up in his own spaceship after he was pretty much drained of his powers, and it was like pretty much an even match. And Superman just beat him up. Some debris collapsed on him and impaled him, so he can't move. Superman, who everybody claimed he doesn't kill people, he always wanted to manage to save people. So eventually, they said, "Forget it, I'm just gonna jump out the plane and leave you to die," which he did. Before he died, he said some words like, he still doesn't know, he still doesn't know. But there was a lot of things he probably wouldn't have known if you hadn't got there to begin with. So again, his motivation didn't make no sense to me. But anyway, he blew up, and Clark able to destroy all the machines to the point where there was nothing left. And that was pretty much the gist of it. That's the first adventure of Superman, pretty much. Got his ship recovered after he called on it, and he needed that ship, by the way, because, again, this was also taken from the book to an extent. He gets weaker when he's near Kryptonian technology. This is something that they made it very clear that if any time he's near Kryptonian technology, because it's Kryptonian, he doesn't. It pretty much drains him, or he cannot penetrate any kind of their technology, because it's pretty much evenly matched with him. And this is nothing new. Smallville have done this with his spaceship. There's a lot of adaptation that shows that if he's around Kryptonian, and Kryptonite, by the way, is part of Kryptonian, he gets weaker. So it makes sense in many ways that happens. So how he did it this time, he didn't punch through the ships like he did. He had his own ship that made him more. He he had his own ship where he can actually blow the ships out of the map. Had the ship underneath the Arctic, of course. So that's pretty much also his fortune of solitude in many ways, where he can get information. And one of the information it says, be a good person, learn and avenge us, which is kind of weird that they actually put that there. So, um, again, I have to praise the artwork. I like the artwork. I like how Lois Lane was drawn. I actually like how they betray Lois Lane. Lois Lane is not no damsel in distress in this book. She actually does stuff in this book. Same with Jimmy Olsen, even though Jimmy Olsen has not exactly get off to a good start with me with his stupidity of taking pictures of a crisis that is happening around him, pretty much risking his life. But he pretty much redeemed himself when he wanted to help Superman, and that is pretty much why Clark came back to the Daily Planet, because out of all the people that he have came across with, Lois and Jimmy was the one that stood there on their ground, end up helping people, end up helping him, and he hadn't forgot that. Where when he went to the guy in the science lab to try and help him resolve this problem, he just ran for cover and basically just said that he doesn't care about nobody else but himself the moment he came back and once everything was said and done. Pretty much saying, that's not my kid, that's not my problem, we have to look out for each other, for ourselves. And that pretty much helped Clark make that decision for him, because Clark wants to help people as much as possible. And there's this guy who's just, they don't care about it. So that was the big decision that would make him come back to Daily Planet. The first thing he said he wants to be called Superman, and he just basically came with a whole exclusive, which I had a problem with that because I always thought that, okay, Lois Lane should be the one that called him Superman. That was the person who gave the name, but whatever, it's the retelling, so that's fine. So it pretty much ends with Lois and Jimmy on top of the roof, and they saw Superman flying past them, and that was pretty much it. And like I said, the artwork was good. I didn't have a problem. The story didn't drag too much to me. I was able to read it fresh from beginning to end with no problem. I guess the main thing why this book doesn't stick with me too much is the fact that I read origin stories time and time again, and this one, it was just another one that I said, okay, well, fine, another origin story. Anything new you guys need to give me besides that? And two, I really didn't like the villain in this. I really did not like this character, nor his motivation, nor his weak army, which was taken out pretty easily by Superman. I just didn't care about this character. I didn't even care about the fights they was going through. It was so underwhelming that it was like, wow, thank goodness they didn't go with this character in the Man of Steel. Thank goodness they went with Zod, and thank goodness they gave him a better motivation so I can actually be invested in. I was not invested on this final climax. I really wasn't. And that's what hurt the book to me. And I know that a lot of critics because this book is not highly praised. I'm letting you know right now, this book, if you notice, people who are praising it, it's Richard Donner, David Goyle, Tom Fronana, Max Brooks, who is, by the way, is the person who wrote World War Z and Zombie Survival Guide, and Harlan Ellison. Those are the ones who highly praise this book. Comic book fans are very mixed with this book. There's a lot of them who liked it, but there's also a lot of them who hate it, and all have the same comment. They don't really care about the villain too much. They don't really care about the origin story too much. There's one critic who can't stand this book. He calls it lazy writing, terrible way to honor a legend, that he may call it. He didn't know very nice kind words of it. Me, I like the artwork. I thought the artwork was fine. I didn't think it was lazy writing. I just think it's writing that we have already seen. I just think that the villain could have been done fleshed out more better. Superman's character, which, by the way, this was the main problem even before I read the book. When I saw how they did Superman, I said, "You sure that's Superman?" Because he looks like a guy who just came out of high school or a guy who was attending college. And I think they did a lot of changes, and I said, okay, whatever. But again, I had to remind myself, this is a reimagining. Let me see what they do. And eventually, Dawn, the famous suit and glasses, which he said is a mask, which by the way it's not. and how they didn't make any distinguish between the Clark Kent who came there first time without glasses to the Clark Kent that came in with glasses and stuck his hair back. How do you not recognize the guy? I don't get it. I just don't get it. But I'm nitpicking here, so I gotta stop that. But that was the main thing. That was the thing that I always I find out a problem with that. He said, "This is my mask." You're not hiding anything. So, well, if it works for the universe, it's not broke, so they're not gonna try and change it. But in any case, that's what that was. Um, again, my real beef about it was with if the villain was probably been flushed out, I probably would have gave it a higher rating that I gave it to. And by the way, in terms of comic books and other books in general, I'm changing the rating scale. I'm not doing the 4, I'm doing the number rating. Um, I'm gonna give this here a 70 or 7 out of 10 because it's not, to me, there's a lot of stuff I actually like with this. But there's also a lot of stuff I didn't care. The origin story, okay, it was an origin story. I thought it was fine. But it didn't really give me the indents of what happened to Krypton, except for in flashbacks. I didn't really feel too invested with Clark because they really didn't give him much to do other than he's looking for a job, he's trying to fill himself out, he's talking to his mother, flashbacks. Situations going arise, he's not too sure whether he should do it or not, but he does it anyway, some more flashbacks. We even hear the voice of the past echoing for this book as as he's dealing with situations over and over again. But really, that villain really was the icing on the cake. I didn't like the villain. That's just me. I just didn't like the villain. But would I recommend diehards to read it? Yeah, I think you should give it a read. I think if your library has this, you should check it out. Especially see for yourself whether or not this is a good book or not. Don't take my word for it. I'm just telling you my feelings on this. I know a lot of people actually did like this book and thought this was a perfect way to freshen up the franchise. Me, I'm not that convinced. Maybe Volume 2 will bring more sense into what Volume 1 was saying, but to me, it's just another telling of Superman. That's it. Just he's younger. He looks more of a hipster, and that's pretty much it. I really don't have too much else to say other than the fact is that this is a retelling of Superman. Is it a terrible retelling of Superman? No, it's not. But it is something that it made me sink my teeth into and say, yeah, I got to go back, or yeah, I have to tell my friends about it. No, I read it, put it back in the library, didn't think about it again. That's just pretty much it. But again, it's me. It's just me. This pretty much concludes about it. I just realized I'm at the 32 mark. Again, if you guys have read this book, I'd like to know your feelings about this. If you liked it, Earth 1, and if you liked it, Earth 1 to the point where you actually want to see read Earth 2 to continue the story. I'd like to know your opinion of it. Have you read Earth 1? Did you like it? Not like it? Let me know in the comment sections. Until then, this is J77 saying take care, be safe. I'll talk to you soon.